Order the City of Bethany Planning and Zoning Commission for August 3, 2017. I will give our invocation. Please pray. Thank you, Heavenly Father, for your boundless blessings. Guide this commission for the benefit of the citizens of Bethany as we consider this matter tonight. We thank you in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. The first item on our agenda this evening is approval of minutes of July 6, 2017. I was not at that meeting. I'd like to thank Commissioner Carlson for covering for me. Is there any discussion? Any changes or corrections? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Please vote. Thank you. The Planning and Zoning Commission is a recommending body to the City Council. The Council can adopt, amend, revise, or not accept our recommendation. So we have one item on the agenda tonight, item PC-11. This is to consider a house moving permit request from Mr. Steve Parham to move a house into the city limits to the location of 3804 North Donald Avenue. Ms. Parker?
Good evening, everybody. Just so that you know, with this particular item, it will not be going on to the City Council. You all will
I
have the final-
apologize. I forgot all about that.
You will have the final approval on this item, so just wanted to let you guys be aware of that ahead of time, especially for some of our newer commissioners. This is for a building moving permit for a house to be moved onto 3804 North Donald. The property and the lot details, the current zoning is single-family residential, and it is a single-family residence that's going to be moved in. The lot is 50 by 175, which equates it to about 8,750 square feet. There is no structures on the property currently, and the house that they're wanting to put on it is a little over 1,000 square feet. There is a restrictive covenant that was filed that if this item is approved, then it will be filed with Oklahoma County, combining lots 37 and 38 together, so that way you're not going to have any issues with building code issues on the lots not being separated. There is a 8-inch water line and sewer line that is on the property or near the property. The water line is on Donald, and the sewer line is on the back side of the property. And then there's a 2-lane residential on Donald. Okay, so some ordinances. Kind of the reason that we're here is the building is larger than 240 square feet, and it is going to be habitable with of people. So that's the first reason why we're here. And the ordinances also state any building that's going to be moved into the city limits, then it does require a permit, and that has to go before the Planning and Zoning Commission. It is required to have your all's approval before they can move forward. They also will require a contractor's license and bond that will be filed upon approval of this issue. That's what the attendees or the applicants have already stated, that once this is approved, then they will go ahead and file the bond and the contractor's license required. The application procedure, the building permit has been submitted. The building inspector did an initial inspection and kind of did his initial inspection, was satisfied with the condition of the house. The new location was provided, being the 3408 Donald, and there is no delinquent or unpaid taxes that were found during the search that we have that was provided. The route and the date and time that was for the house to be moved in, that still will need to be approved by the city manager and the police chief, and that will be done if this is approved. And then the building inspector will do another inspection of the house once the house is in place. And also, as a requirement, is you have to have a majority approval of surrounding property owners, and they've also provided that. They do have a majority signed within 150 feet of the residence. And here's just a zoning map, and here's kind of an aerial photo, and then here's a drawing that was provided of where the house is going to be located and all that, and it does meet all the setbacks and things like that. And here's where the water lines are along Donald, and then the sewer line on the back side of the property. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Can we go back to the slide showing I think 3 before this, showing the location?
This here?
No, the next, this one.
Okay.
The page 8 of our packet shows 7.5 feet on each side. Mm-hmm. Is that reflected up there?
Yes, it is.
I thought our ordinances required a 5 and 10.
It does, unless the property was on record prior to 1973.
Okay.
And then it allows 5 and 5. And this
Okay.
is on record in 1911, I believe.
Okay. And the logic behind the 5 and 10 was to provide access for emergency service to the backyard?
Possibly. I'm not real sure why.
I believe
they changed
that's
to
what
5 and 10.
our city attorney has.
Yeah, I believe that may have been what it was.
What distance are the other houses adjoining this property from the property line?
I'm not real sure, to be honest. Let's see if we can't see. It's kind of not the best picture, but my guess is probably close to 5 and 5 on each side is going to be just a rough guess.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Is it 7 or 7.5 feet that we're
On the drawing, it does say 7.5 feet on each side for where the house is to their current property line.
But the house is 36 feet across.
Mm-hmm.
So that would leave only 14 feet for a 50-foot lot.
Right. Maybe that's, oh wait, I think that's just a 7 foot. I don't think there's a half in there.
Okay.
I think that's an FT, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it's a 7 and then the little,
Okay.
Instead of a 1/2, I think
Yeah.
that's just an FT.
yeah, that's what I think it is.
So if it was on record before a certain date, there's no minimum side setback?
It's only 5 foot,
A
5 foot on
footer.
each side.
Okay.
What was that date again?
1973, it's like December 1973. And the applicant is also here if you had any questions for them.
In the building permit application, it talks about number of off-street parking places, 2 outdoors. Does our building code require a concrete or other paved driveway and parking?
A driveway will be required, yes.
Is there does it specify parking places?
I don't believe.
You know, my thought is we have one of the big complaints, particularly in some of the more congested areas, a lack of off-street parking. I will save that question for the applicant in a minute.
Are there any other questions for Ms. Barker? Thank you, Ms. Barker.
Oh.
the applicant like to be heard?
I don't really have anything to add that's,
But we might have some questions for you.
oh, well, yeah.
Yeah,
if you want me
please,
to-
if you would.
Yeah, yes.
And for the record, just state who you are.
Steve Parham.
Okay. Mr. Parham, welcome.
Thank you.
Mr. Parham, can you address my concerns about off-street parking?
I'm not sure I understand the issue. I would, there's a lot of houses on that street that have driveways that some people have one car or two cars, and they park in the driveway. I guess if, on occasion, if somebody had more than enough cars that could get in the driveway, I guess they would park in the street just like anybody else. I don't really know.
Are you planning to build a driveway for the property?
Sure,
Well, and that.
I'll do whatever's required.
Well, and an additional question I had, with only 5 feet on each side, are you planning on at some time building a garage or adding a garage to the house?
No. No, sir.
Okay, so it'll be without a garage, just a driveway?
Yes.
Okay.
And what is the setback from the front property line?
35 feet from that property.
Well, it's about 40 feet from the back property line, and then I'd have to have this is actually to scale, but it's not marked on here.
Okay.
The requirement was 25 feet from the front property line, and I'm more than double that back.
Okay.
So I can't give you an exact, I can't believe that's not on here.
So
but-
60 feet sound right?
Yeah, if it's 175 feet back and the house is about 27 feet from front to back, and I'm, I would say, I don't know, I'd have to do the math.
I did the math.
I don't
and
want to say anything.
I think it's 108 if you just do the math.
Yeah.
Because if it's 40 feet back on here, it's shown as 35 feet back.
Well, the 35 is just right here where that mark is. The house is actually another,
Looks like
Little
50 or
bit.
60 feet. If this is to scale,
it is.
I just took my pen and I went across the front, which is supposed to be 50 feet, and it looks like you're right about 50 feet at the front of the house, based on this drawing, page 8.
I understood the setback was 20 feet minimum to the back and 25 feet from the front property line.
Well, any approval that we make, we have an obligation to the future to make sure that any current problems in other locations aren't repeated here. And that's why I want to make sure that we have enough space and enough driveway to accommodate at least 2 cars, because that's probably very typical in most households of that size.
Right, I agree.
When do you plan to accomplish this move?
Well, as soon as I can get all the required permits, I'm ready to do it now. So I've got to go through the city, get the permits, pour the stem wall, have that inspected. So I don't really know a date, as soon as possible, as soon as what's feasible.
Would you anticipate that'd be 90, 120 days?
I would hope it would be before that.
Well, I'm talking about a max, because that's one of the requirements for our
Yes.
approval.
Yes. I would say within 120 days, yes,
Okay.
for sure.
As far as the driveway, Are you expecting just a straight-in driveway or a circular type driveway, or have you thought about that?
I haven't, but probably just straight in down the side, like the other houses in the neighborhood.
Just a single lane?
Uh-huh.
Are you going to be living in the house?
No, I don't think so. I don't plan on it.
Is it going to be rental property?
I haven't decided yet whether I would like to sell it or keep it as rental property. I just kind of, it fell into the opportunity presented itself for me to buy the lot, so I did. Didn't know what I was going to do with it. I met Don Gray, who has extensive amount of experience doing this, and he had a house and everything just kind of lined up for me to move this property over there. The house I'm moving was purchased by a school in Edmond. They wanted the house for a parking lot, and so I think it's customary that they hire these guys to move them, and so then they can do with them what they want. And
There
he
was
bought it.
I believe there was a demolition permit issued by the city of Edmond in December of last year for the property, and then there was a picture that brought up online that showed that school parking lot coming right up to the edge of it.
Okay.
Your lot that you have drops down from the street, does it not?
Excuse me?
The lot that over here on Donald seems to drop down away from the street. How big a stem wall are you going to, or how high are you anticipating?
Don has a crew that does that, and I really don't know. I'm leaving that up to them and the city inspectors to guide me on whatever's required. I do not know. I was going to let people who are much more experienced and well-versed at that guide me there.
Will you be placing another outbuilding? I noticed on the reference drawing on sheet 7, there's an outbuilding that's described there. It's less than 240 square feet, but.
That's its current location?
Correct.
That's
And
its
you're not moving that? Okay.
I did have a question. I presume this current location is taken from apparently something like the county assessor's website, and it shows a 34-foot expanse across the front versus the 36-foot on the drawing.
Yeah, the building inspector went over and looked at the house, and I think that possibly this measurement was done before they added siding. This is just a guess, but
Okay.
the house has new vinyl siding on it, and so when it was wrapped, now I don't know if it's 2 feet.
2 feet.
No, I don't think that it is, but I think, whoever did this may have rounded up or, within, but I've measured the house, and it's kind of not quite 36 feet, but it's
Okay.
more than 35 feet.
All right.
And I felt comfortable
All right.
measuring it at 36.
Well, that,
Yeah.
the county records are not necessarily 100% correct anyhow.
Correct.
But, all right. So the 36 would be the maximum. You're comfortable with that?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
And
Did-
Gilbert, to answer your question on the parking requirements for residential, it is required for 2 parking places, so, yes.
Okay.
Ms. Parker indicated there was something about delinquent taxes. Has that been? Oh, there is none. Oh, okay. Thank you.
Did you determine this moving route that shows on page 9?
The moving company, Don Gray of Economy Moving,
They
Did
picked
that.
that? I was
Yes.
just curious as to why there's so many turns in it when they could go down to Rockwell to 36th and then go east.
unfortunately, that's a question for him, and I
Okay.
don't, and I can get the answer if you'd like.
It's not critical. I was just curious.
Okay.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Parham? Thank you, Mr. Parham.
Thank you.
Any discussion, comments? Is there a motion?
I make a motion, we approve this.
What about a permit time?
Well, we mentioned
120
120
days.
days. That was the time that I heard.
Okay.
And I don't know, does that commence today?
I believe it does.
In most cases, I believe it's either today or tomorrow morning type of deal, so.
What do we normally do as far as a minimum? 180 or 150?
I'm not real sure. I imagine with them wanting to do this quickly, I'd imagine 120 days give them more than enough time. Because basically all that's left is getting the contractor's license, the bond, getting the route approved by city manager and the police chief. And then they can probably get going at that point and getting a couple things done,
Well,
so
is
I'd
it-
imagine.
Have they poured the stem wall, Mr. Parham?
No.
Have they?
No.
So they're going to have to, form and pour the stem
Yeah.
wall.
Yeah, so that might take a little bit of time.
Yeah, and that's got to cure.
Right.
120 days sufficient time?
I think that it will be, sir, but if, I'll take 150 if you, I mean, just to be safe, I don't foresee any problems, but I appreciate what you're saying.
Okay.
Do you know how they're going to mount the house on that lot? Is it going to be a stem wall, or is it just
Yes.
going to be pier and beam?
No, it's a concrete stem wall.
Okay.
And they've told me the size and all that, but I don't know.
That's another contractor.
Yeah, all that stuff kind of goes right over my head.
Okay.
I'm not an expert, but I think the reason they do that is so that they can tie into the plumbing and sewer and all those other things and have the crawl space underneath the house to do that.
Well, if you got to get plumbing and other things in there as well as stem wall, I'm not sure 150 is enough.
Well, but you could set the house and then do those.
Yeah, and then do the plumbing and stuff later. I've had that job. That's not a fun job. Okay. 150 days then.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Please vote. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Parham. Good luck.
Thank you.
It's been approved, so now you can move forward.
Okay. I'll get with the building inspector tomorrow morning or this week and get things rolling. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That was the only item on our agenda. Is there any other discussions or matters that we need to discuss? One thing I'd like us to think about, I don't know that we have to make a decision tonight, but when we had our joint meeting, we said the Pledge of Allegiance prior to beginning the meeting. And I thought that was kind of a nice touch, and I'd just like everybody to think about that. Maybe we could do that before we begin our meetings also. So,
I think that's within the power of the chair.
well, and I'm really putting it out for suggestion to see how you all feel about it.
I'm
Is
in
it-
favor of it.
Okay, well,
I was kind of surprised we didn't.
okay. Well, then I'd say if no one has any objection, we'll just add that. If we could put that on our list, I imagine that would probably come, our invocation, then our Pledge of Allegiance. Do I have that in the right order?
Right, and we'll invite the mayor to do it for the first time at the next meeting.
Yes, the mayor, that would be the best.
Yes.
I like that even better. Okay, well, thank you, everyone. Do we have a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
I think that was a duplicitous, so please vote. Thank you all very much. Sorry you missed the